Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schwab Coaching. My name is Cameron May. I'm a Senior Manager of Trading and Derivatives Education here at Schwab, and this is Getting Started with Thinkorswim. And when we're talking about trading, envy is real. Sometimes we look at another trader's screen and we think, ooh, I want fancy charts like that. I just don't know how to do it. Well, today is going to be a beginner's guide to setting up our very first fancy chart. Just really an introduction to the tools that support one's efforts to set up a chart that might help them with their effort in their trading or the management of their portfolio. So it should be a very good discussion. I'm really looking forward to this one. Let me first of all say hello to everyone who's chatting in. Great to see so many familiar names as always. Hello there, Will and E. Dunny, Hope, Rojo, JDLMI, Eva, Jack, Robert, Marcus, Beck, and everybody else. Thanks for joining us week after week. We always appreciate your attendance and your contributions to these discussions. If you're here for the very first time, I want to welcome you as well. And if you're watching on the YouTube archive after the live stream has concluded, we'll enjoy that recording. That's a great way to watch these webcasts, but you're certainly invited to join us in the live stream. If you'd like to be here, this is a Wednesday webcast series, and we kick things off promptly at 2 o'clock Eastern time. Now, I also want to let everybody know that my longtime peer, we've been working together for nearly 20 years now, Connie Hill is in the chats with us. Connie's going to be bringing her experience to the addressing of the questions that come in through the chats. So she's going to keep an eye on the chats. If there's a question that comes in and I don't get the opportunity to, or I don't have the chance to answer that question, Connie's there to pick up the slack for me. Thanks for being there, having my back, Connie. Connie and I would also like to issue an invitation to everybody listening to follow us on social media. You can find Connie and me on X. Connie's handle there is at Connie Hill CS. You can find me there at Cameron May CS. Now you can also follow me on LinkedIn. Go to linkedin.com/in, then /Cameron May CS will take you right to my profile. You can give me a follow there, but that's the best place to connect with your favorite presenters in between the live streams. But let's get into this discussion. And obviously, as we do, we need to be aware that risks are real. So we want to bear these important risk disclosures in mind. All corporate or issuer names and market data shown are for illustrative purposes only and are not a recommendation, offer to sell, or a solicitation of an offer to buy any security. Options carry a high level of risk and are not suitable for all investors. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as a sole means of investment research, and investing involves risks, including the loss of principal. All right, so just had a question come in, say, hi trainer, where can I find a free drawing tool in Thinkorswim? So we are going to be going through Thinkorswim's drawing tools today as a bit of a spoiler alert. But if you're talking about the ones that our presenters sometimes are using, yeah, those are separate software that have been downloaded just out there for whatever's available on the retail market. I don't use those, but I think it's a great tool. I think about maybe I need to add that to my presentations. But in any case, here's what we're going to be going through today. We're going to be talking through a first-timer's guide to setting up their Thinkorswim charts. So a lot of tools can support that effort. I'm going to demonstrate those in as structured a way as possible. We'll set up an example chart, and then I also want to talk about how a trader might set up multiple charts using the grid functionality on Thinkorswim. So by the time we're done, we should not only be comfortable with building a stock chart, but even multiple stock charts. All right, so let's go right to the Thinkorswim desktop. This is the Thinkorswim desktop trading software platform, and I've kind of cheated because not everybody watching this video or this live webcast is going to know even what Thinkorswim is. So this is software that can be downloaded free of charge from within your Schwab Online account, and just log in using your Schwab credentials. So first thing I want to show is that if you go to your online account, and I'm just logged into an example account, let's start right from the summary page for accounts, right at basically the home page. If we want to download Thinkorswim, we just go to the Trade tab, go to Thinkorswim Desktop, and then there's going to be a big blue button right here that says Learn how to enable Thinkorswim. Just click on that. There'll be on-screen prompts to walk you through the process of the download. It doesn't cost anything to do this, but this takes you to this software, or it downloads the software, which is intended as a complementary suite of tools to go along with the ones that are already available to you on Schwab Online. In any case, once we've downloaded the software, it creates an icon on your computer's desktop. It looks like this blue splash that you're seeing right here on my screen. You just double click on that icon, or you find Thinkorswim in your computer start menu, and it'll bring up a login pop-up. And here we just use our Schwab credentials. You don't need a special username and password for Thinkorswim. Just use the Schwab username and password. But as we do, make note that we can access our live balances, or we can switch over to what's called paper money, which is what I'm going to be using today. And this is a practice platform loaded with practice money. So there's no risk there's no money at risk while we're experimenting with new tools and features and new strategies, including setting up charts for the first time. All right. So with that said, let's go to our Thinkorswim platform. Let's go to the Charts tab. And while we're here, what you'll first note is that my platform is set up to be very bright. This is just trader preference. Sometimes you'll watch one of our coaches and they have sort of a dark theme to their Thinkorswim. Well, that's selected right up here. So the first thing I want to point out for the customization of the platform is actually the broad color theming of the platform. So if we go up here to the setup and we go to the application settings, we can choose the look and feel for our platform. And I've just chosen the light. If we were to choose dark as an example, it would look something like this as a color scheme. I'm going to keep this on light, but I just wanted everybody to know why it looks the way it looks. And if yours looks significantly different than mine, most likely it's just the color scheming. All right, next up, let's load up a symbol. So as we go to build our first chart, maybe we don't even know a symbol. Well, we can just start typing in the name of the company that we intend to chart here. And Thinkorswim's algorithm will search for similar names and propose them here in a menu. So let's just choose Apple. There it is. Or if we just know the symbol, obviously we can just type the symbol in. In case of Apple, it's AAPL. So that brings me to this sort of default look to our chart. For some traders, it might be perfectly adequate, but this Thinkorswim charting tool is just packed full of features that allows a trader to customize their view of a chart or of multiple charts to a great extent. So let me just introduce you to some of the basic navigational tools that are available. Then I'm going to go through things sort of instead of top to bottom. I'm going to go from bottom up to top. Aha! Dupore says, how do we get get rid of the red lines with the date on it? Good question. I'll make sure to cover that. All right, because that's actually right up here in our chart settings. I'm going to be starting more down toward the bottom, but a few just broad general things first. So, for example, first of all, when we're looking at a chart, sometimes a trader just wants to look at a portion of the chart. Or maybe I'd like to see a closer view of June and July, where it looks like prices first started to accelerate upward. Well, a trader can employ the zoom feature, which is just a click and drag feature on Thinkorswim. So we go to where we might want to start our view, click there, and then just drag to the right to the end of that view. So let me just highlight June and July and maybe right toward that first part of August. And then as I do that, you'll see that is creating a dark box around the area that we're going to zoom in on. And as I release my click, we're now looking at that time frame, and we can advance through that time frame using the scroll bar down at the bottom. I'm moving forward in time, or I can pull that scroll bar backward in time, or we can navigate forward and back just one candle at a time using the arrows. So that's just a broad feature, but it's nice to know. To zoom back out, we can actually use the little magnifying glasses down here. If we click on the minus sign, it zooms out. Click on the plus sign, it zooms in. Let's just zoom back out. Now, another thing that we might do is when we're zoomed in, we can just double click on the chart and it just pops right back to the default. So that's just sort of a broad tool that I wanted to introduce in the customization of these charts that's not really included in any of these menus. Now, the next thing I wanted to point out is we can also get extra space above and below the chart. And traders use that for all sorts of purposes, but it's a manipulation of what we call the y-axis over here. A lot of even our longtime users of charts aren't aware that we can actually come over to the right and just click on these numbers in that y-axis and drag them up and down, and it expands and corrects and contracts that vertical axis. All right. Now, once we've done that, it can be a little bit goofy if we switch our charts. Let me just switch over to General Electric. You'll notice that that one is new, is normal. And as I switch back to Apple, it's gone back to the normal expansion of the chart. Now, if we're here on the chart and we've contracted things and we want to switch back to normal without switching charts, we can come right up here to our price axis settings. That y-axis or is our price axis. I can click on that and just change it to automatic. It just automatically shifts it right back to where it was. All right. Now, let's get on to the tools that are available for the customization. I'm going to start down here with our drawing tools and features. Then we're going to come over to these tabs on the right and finally make our way across the top for some of these top tabs. So let's come right down here. We've already acquainted ourselves with the zoom out and zoom in. Let's play with it one more time. Let's zoom in, and if we're not clicking and dragging to highlight a specific time frame, Thinkorswim doesn't know which time frame we want, so it's just going to go by default to the most recent time frame. So as I zoom in, it's going to stop looking at a 12-month view. Let's just click on this, and you'll notice now we're looking back over about 6 months. Click on it again. Now we're looking back at about 3 months, and so on. So I can zoom back out using that feature. Just to the right of that are what are called our right expansion settings. So right expansion is, we'll note with the chart as it currently sits, our last candle is running right into the right axis of the chart. There's no extra space here. And frequently when drawing lines or looking out for future events, our traders like to see some extra space representing extra days on the calendar ahead of the current day. And to access that, we can just change those right expansion settings. So if I click on the little double-headed arrow icon, select change right expansion settings. Right now we're looking at 0 extra bars to the right. Let's maybe make that 10. That means on a daily chart, 10 bars would be 10 extra trading days. So let's click apply, click OK, and then we have some extra white space there. All right, so finally, we have our cursor type and we have our drawing tools. Now, before I go to those, I do want to note that there has been a link that's been added to the chat window for the benefit of the live attendees. We don't always get this, but what's happening here is there's been a survey that's been added to the chat window for feedback to be provided from our live audience. So if you're a live audience member, do me a favor, click on that survey link. It'll bring up a very short survey, 2 multiple choice questions, a comments box, and a suggestion box. But if you take the time to fill out that survey, I will definitely take the time to read it. The nice thing is they take those surveys, they forward them right to the coaches, and it definitely helps. All right, so thank you for doing that. But back here to our tools, next up we have our cursor type. For some traders, they like to have a cursor much like mine, where you'll notice that there are horizontal and vertical crosshairs that are just following my cursor around the screen. That can help us orient time with price levels. Kind of nice. Not everybody prefers those. That can be customized to just the vertical line, just the horizontal line, or having none. I'm going to leave that on the crosshairs. Then we have our drawing tools. So we have a whole suite of drawing tools. I've actually explained these in previous webcasts. So if we were to, for example, if we have an interest in anything that's previously been discussed in this series or in our other webcast series, do yourself a favor. Make sure that you have subscribed to our Trader Talks channel on YouTube, because this is, yes, where you can join the live streams, but you can also find our playlists for previous webcasts, and you can even do keyword searches through those archives. So we're talking about drawing tools right now. Let's do this. I haven't done this. Let's look for drawing tools and see what we get. Hey, what do you know? Using Thinkorswim Desktop's chart drawing tools. There's a webcast I dedicated just to those, so you may want to check that out. But yeah, just pop down below the video right now and click on subscribe. Doesn't cost anything. Literally only takes a second, but it's a great resource there. Anyway, so our drawing tools give you access to the ability to draw all sorts of fancy things on a chart. And traders also frequently fancy themselves artists. And OBTV Vault says even after I set the right expansion offset to 10, even 20, there's barely any space. That can have to do with the time frame of your chart. Yeah, 10 days out of 252 that's a typical number of trading days in a calendar year. That's still only about a 4% expansion to the right. So yeah, 20 days would be an 8% expansion. It's not huge, but it's proportionate to the chart that we're looking at. If we're looking at a shorter term chart, it's going to look a lot bigger. All right. In any case, let's do some drawings here. So what I've selected here is our trend line tool. Now we can also do drawings making ovals or rectangles, channels, Fibonacci's, all kinds of things. I go through those in that video that I just showed you. But let's make a first time drawing. The way to do that is we just select our preferred tool and then go to where we want to start our drawing. Let's say that our trader's been looking at this upward slope to Apple for the last 4 or 5 months. Click where we want to start that drawing and then move to where we want to end the drawing and click again. So that creates this nice thin black line, which may in this case be a potential area of, let's say, support or a price floor. Now these are customizable. So yes, we can customize this line, but also all future lines going forward by right-clicking on a drawing that we made. And we're going to edit the properties of that drawing. And right now it's a black, thin, solid line. Let's change that to, and you've seen, if you've watched one of my videos before, you know that I like the thicker dashed blue lines. They just sort of stand out to me better. So I'm going to change the color to blue. I'm going to change the style from solid to dashed. And let's change the width from 1 out of 5 to 5 out of 5. And then I'm going to save that as a default for all future lines that I draw. Now, if I click OK, you can see I now have a thicker blue line, and any future line that I draw is also a thick blue dashed line. Then if I've cluttered up my chart with a bunch of drawings I no longer need, I can just right-click, and I can either remove the single drawing, or I can clear the whole drawing set or set of drawings. So I'm going to do that. There we go. So we've already acquainted ourselves with those tools. That is really starting to build out the trader's toolbox here. Let's get on with additional customizations that can be made on a chart very quickly. And that is the tabs just here to the right. I'm just going to touch these on a high level. I've done webcasts in the past where we spend the entire time talking about these, but let's just acquaint ourselves with some of these. First of all, if I click on the Trade tab, you'll notice it keeps our chart here, but it puts some boxes up at the top that allow us to place trades quickly so we can have our charts, and then we have access to the trading tools right up above. So Dupuy says, how did I save that? And I think what you were talking about was the drawing tool. When I created that drawing modification, let's just draw a new line, right-click, edit properties. And by the way, this is a good time to remind us that this webcast will be added as an archive to our playlist. And you can just go back and rewatch that if you want to see me do it again. But in any case, once I've drawn a line, I can right-click, edit its properties, and then save as default right there. Okay, there we go. So let's just remove that drawing. Now, there are lots of things that we do on Thinkorswim that actually don't require saving, because Thinkorswim basically has a memory that however you have your layout set up, when you close it down, the next time you open Thinkorswim, it just remembers that and it'll be back to that same layout. But I am going to show you some additional save features and functions. All right, so we see what this is: buy, sell, change the quantity, that kind of thing. As we go down a little bit further, we can see if for those who like to access time and sales numbers, this is just a tick-by-tick recording of what's been happening with individual trades, the size of the trade, the price for the trade, the time it happened. We have our active trader tool that I've done a full webcast on right here. Buttons is similar to trade. Notice this just gives us our buy and sell and our quantity, but it's off to the right instead of up the top. Down below, now notice here, it says C. This stands for the chart. If I have one of these other things selected, and for some reason I've accidentally clicked on the C, my chart disappears. Uh-oh, make sure that we've clicked that C. That brings the chart back up. That's important to know. The OC brings up our options chain for options traders. So we still can see our chart, but we can place our options trades just down below. Like it's a common question, Cameron, how can I get my options on my chart? It's not on, but it's under the chart. Yes, we can actually add the options to the chart. I'm not going to do that today. Next up, we have our buy and sell buttons that we can position down below. So we can do that below, we can do it to the right, or we can do it up at the top. Finally, level 2 and news can be added to our chart. So there we go. Level 2 information and news headlines can be added right there. We can click on those headlines for more information. But those are quick customizations that really are just one click to add those to the chart. Some traders have a preference for having their charts displayed in a certain way with certain tools also displayed on the chart. Others just like a nice, clean, big chart. That's fine. Just set it up the way you like it, leave it, and that's the way it'll be the next time you load your charts. Now, let's get acquainted with these tools across the top row. And I think this is where a lot of people are going to think, oh, this is what I was looking for. So I like these tools. I like demonstrating these tools and the tools off to the right. But right up here, I think I'm going to be addressing a lot of questions that are still top of mind for a lot of people. First of all, how do we add all those fancy technical indicators that I see the other traders using, or the ones that I was just reading about and or just learning about in another webcast? Well, that can be done using this, the Flask icon for editing studies. Sometimes we call a technical indicator a technical chart tool, or we'll call it a study. So I'm going to click on that Flask icon, and that's going to bring up hundreds of technical studies. And we can just scroll down through those in alphabetical order, or we can just search for them. So for example, let's say I'm looking for what many traders consider to be the most commonly used technical indicator. Let's say I'm looking to add a simple moving average to my chart. I can just start typing in the word simple, don't even have to type in the entire word, and it automatically performs a keyword search for studies, including that portion of that word. And let's choose simple moving average. So I'm going to add that to my chart. Now by default, if I click apply here, I now am left with this green line that is a 9 period, and on a daily chart that means 9 days. So this is a green line representing the average closing prices over the last 9 days. And for some traders, they use this as an indication of trend, also as potential price floors and price ceilings or support and resistance. But that is quite short term. This would be typical for traders who like to be in and out of trades relatively rapidly. Nice feature of our studies here, our technical studies, is that they can be customized using this little gear icon. So how about we customize this? Let's change this to look over the last 50 days, adding more of an intermediate trend line on the chart. I'm going to click OK. And as we click apply, you'll notice that our trend line has changed. It's much slower. It's looking over the last 50 days instead of just 9 days. It's less reactive to day-to-day changes. Now, before I do that, let's add one more technical indicator. Let's maybe add a MACD histogram. So I'm going to type in MACD. Let's choose histogram. Let's add that to our chart. Click apply and click OK. And as we do that, now we have 2 indicators on our chart, and those follow us around. As long as I leave those indicators on the chart, they're just going to be displayed on every chart. But if I want to get rid of them, let's say I just want a nice clean chart, but I want a quick access so I don't have to go reload those indicators individually, this is where I might want to save this set of studies. So on our Edit Studies icon, notice right down here, it gives me the option to save this set of studies. Let's save this as let's call this maybe our moving average. Let's call it MA and MACD. Let's just click Save and click OK. And then let's say we're here on General Electric. So we were on Apple. Maybe Apple was a stock where we're using the 50 and the 50 period moving average and the MACD, but we don't really need that on GE. Maybe we'll use it for other purposes. Well, let's come up to our studies, Now, a quick way to do this, let's go back here to our edit studies and just remove those, clicking the X's, apply, and click OK. So now I have a nice clean chart. Maybe I'm looking at some other symbols, but I'd like to retrieve that set of studies. Well, now I can just go up here to where it says Studies and load that study set that I saved. So we saved that as the moving average in MACD, and you'll notice that I have other study sets for my other webcast series. Let's choose moving average in MACD, and there's that list of studies again. So that is a way that technically oriented traders might customize the tools that are being used on their charts, and they can have different sets of charts or different sets of studies for different approaches. Maybe short-term trading might be one kind of a study set. Longer-term trading might be a different kind of study set. But let's come up here to our studies. This is another way to manipulate the studies. Let's just remove these. Yep, it's removed. Okay, let's go back to Apple and acquaint ourselves with the next tab over, which is our chart settings tab. Now this is going to go to this question that was asked earlier. Let me see exactly the way that it was asked about. Dupori says, how do you get rid of the red lines with the date on it? So this is going to be answered in this portion of the discussion. Okay. Right up here under the time axis, what we're talking about is date, right? Or time. So we can change the settings on our charts to manipulate things related to time. And included in that, let me click on time axis. If I check this box that says show expiration Friday, our options traders know exactly what that is. Traditional contracts expire on the third Friday of the month, and this will apply red lines to indicate when those third Friday traditional options contracts are expiring. Let me click apply here. There we go. There are the red lines. If I want to get rid of them, chart settings. It's a time feature because it's showing dates. I'm going to uncheck show expiration Friday. Now, another thing that our trader might want to do, maybe they're interested in customizing the charts for options, for stock features. Well, stocks are also known as equities. So a couple of common things that I get questions about here is, how do I see volume on my chart? Well, you check the box for stocks or equities that says show volume subgraph, so show volume below your graph. Another thing is, how do I see all the earnings announcements and the stock splits and the dividends? Well, those are what are known as corporate actions. Anytime a corporation takes an action that might affect its stock price, we call that generically a corporate action. So let's show those as icons on our chart. So I'm going to check the box for show corporate actions. So what I should wind up with as I click apply here is volume shown below the chart and corporate actions displayed as icons on the chart. So let's click apply and click OK. Once those features have been applied, they'll be applied to every chart, or I can choose to take them off. Or let me show a few more things. We can also save all this stuff. So we only have to load it up with basically 1 or 2 clicks. All right, but let's leave those on there. So those are some features that I wanted to show in setting things up for loading up technical studies, for loading up volume and these corporate actions. And yes, also I had a note to deal with those red lines on the chart. Next up is our time frame tab. The D here means that we're on a daily chart. If we were on a weekly chart, there would be a W. If we were on an hourly chart, there would be an H, and so on. Monthly chart, you get the point. But this is customizable. And whatever time frame we choose stays on that time frame until we change it. So let's make some changes here. So I'm going to switch this up. Let's change our time frame. When we click on this, you'll notice there's a list of favorites, and this is already preloaded with a menu of defaults, but it is a customizable menu. So for example, if I want to customize this list further, let's say I wanted to add, how about a 5-year chart? So we can choose the time interval of the chart, or we can choose what's called the aggregation period. It's a fancy word for what's the length of the candle. So we're looking at daily candles. On a 5-year chart, what if we wanted to look at weekly candles? So let's just add that to our list, and there it is. Now, right now, that's showing up. I have everything else is in sort of increasing sort of a chronological order, 1 year, 3 year, 10 year, but then we have 5 years sort of out of place. Let's move that up to be between 3 year and 5 year, and just click apply and click OK. And we now have that access if we want to switch up our time frame. Let's go back up here to our daily chart. If I want to bring up a 5 year, I can just load that up that quickly. Notice it's still showing the previous modifications that we made. So that's how we can modify our time frame. A final thing that I want to show on individual charts is changing the chart style. What I've been using throughout this presentation is what's known as just a candle chart. It shows us 4 bits of data about the day that we're viewing or about the week that we're viewing. It gives us open, high, low, and close data. Well, for some traders, that might just be too much information. And so they have a preference for a different style of chart. They may use, let's say, a line chart. So I can go to chart style and I can switch this from a candle to a line. All right. So let's say we have our trader who's a little bit longer term. Maybe they're more of an investor. So they don't need the day-to-day open, high, low, close information that's available on a candle chart. They do like to see volume and they like to see corporate events. Well, these changes that we've made all can be lumped under, this is the style of chart that the trader prefers. Maybe their preference is a 5-week line chart with these chart settings. All of that can be wrapped up in one save function. Let's go up to our style, and I'm going to save this style. And maybe I'll just call this a 5-year, not a percent year, a 5-year line chart. And we can call these whatever we want, just whatever is going to be meaningful that'll help us retrieve all this information. But it's saving everything except any technical studies that we've added to the chart, unless we want to. So notice here there's a box that says includes patterns that we've selected up here or the studies that we've added. I don't have any studies. I'm not going to save those on this example. But I do get questions. Cameron, what's the difference between saving a study set and saving a chart style? Well, saving studies saves everything, any customization that we made specifically in the edit studies. Saving the chart style saves basically everything else. The chart settings here, things like volume, things like corporate events. It saves the time frame, and it saves the style that's been selected. All of that sort of one fell swoop. And if we want to lump in studies, we can do that as well. So let's just go ahead and click Save, and then we show you what sort of an impact we've had. Let's say we've gone over to General Electric again, and maybe on this chart, we're looking at a daily candle chart without our volume or corporate actions. So we're just looking at a clean candle chart like this. And then maybe we're back looking at some other stock, just Ford as an example, whatever. But maybe that trader is back into investing mode and think, oh, I want that other style that I had all set up with all those other settings. Now I can just go up to Style. I can load that 5-year line chart, and there it is. Save that style. Nice little time saver. All right. Let's swap this all. Well, actually, I don't mind. I'll just leave this on here. It's okay for the rest of this demonstration. But we've talked through a lot of different ways that a trader can set up their chart, adding studies, changing time frames, throwing on different features off to the right, even making drawings and expansion settings. But that's all just on one chart. And a lot of traders like to keep their eyes on 2 or 3 charts or even more, all at the same time, using maybe a multi-monitor layout. So here's how we might do that. First of all, if we want a lot of charts on a single monitor, we can just go up here to our grid function. So up here, there's a rectangle up in the upper right, which is indicating we're only looking at one chart. But we can look at up to, let's tally this up right now. 8 across, 4 down, my math says 32 different charts that can be displayed all at the same time on one display. I'm not going to do 32. Let's just do 4. So notice as I just move my cursor around, it's going through different potential configurations of multiple charts. Let's do 4. And now we have 4 charts in a grid, and each of these charts are independently usable for all of these customizations that we have made. Now, if I want to, yes, I can load up a chart like this and load up the style if I like, or I can use a different set of tools and features. Now, so how about we load up all of these? So we have Ford, we have General Electric. Let's stick with the same thing we've been using. How about Apple? And what about Microsoft down here in the lower right-hand corner? So this can be handy, but it can also be, we lose some granularity when we're looking at 4 charts at the same time. If we want to zoom in on just one, what we can do is click on the little menu in the upper right and maximize that, what we call a cell. Each one of these 4 charts in this grid carries a label of a cell. So I'm going to choose to maximize this one cell, and uh-oh, we just lost the other 4. No, we didn't. We can find those other 4 right up here, and we can navigate through those by using the forward and back arrow. So let's go forward. Let's go back, and we can revert back to seeing all 4 by clicking on the minimize cell button. There's all 4. And if we just want to go back to one chart, we can select just one chart here. So pretty straightforward navigation, going from one chart to many, looking through those many charts, and then back to just one. Now, finally, what a trader might want to see is, well, maybe I want to have multiple charts, but I want those to be also on multiple monitors. Well, for that, let's detach our chart. So what that does is it essentially breaks away the chart from the thinkorswim platform, opens it as its own separate window, and then we can grab that window at the top, just click and drag that over to a different monitor. So I'm now moving that over to my right monitor, or I can move it over to my left monitor. And those are now independently usable charts. Now, if they're linked, I will make this note. Notice this one up here has a red one, and this one has a red one. So if I make changes to this one, it's just going to load up the same chart. That's what linking does. So with this one, maybe I want to unlink it. So then I can make changes. There we go. But I can use this now as an individual chart, or I can set up a grid. Now we're getting fancy. But guys, with that though, that's going to bring me to the conclusion of this discussion, because I think we've covered a lot. I hope you don't feel pressure to try to remember every single thing that I've taught you today, because one of the nice features of these webcasts is that the vast majority of them, they're recorded and then posted as archives on our YouTube channel. So do make sure that you've subscribed to our channel. But we've done everything that I wanted to do today, which was to talk through how a beginner might set up their first fancy stock chart, and then even take that and set up several fancy stock charts, even on multiple monitors. So that's check, check, check. We've accomplished everything that I wanted to. So I'm going to let you go, but just as I do, let's make sure that you're aware of the full slate of educational resources available to you from Schwab Education. So first of all, if you haven't done it yet, my final suggestion, final time I'm going to bring up this suggestion, is to make sure that you're subscribed to our Trader Talk channel. Go down below the video and click on the subscribe button. It only takes a moment, doesn't cost anything, and that's where you can join our YouTube channel called Trader Talk's Schwab Coaching Webcasts. Is where you can join our live streams. You can find our playlists of previous webcasts, and you can even do keyword searches for topics of interest, like taking a deeper dive into some of these features that I only brushed over today. Now, another thing that Connie and I would suggest you do is to follow us on social media. You can follow us both on X, so you can find Connie on X at Connie Hill CS. You can find me on X at Cameron May CS. So here's my handle. And I'm very, very active on X. You can see 6,300 posts a date, which is just ridiculous. Anyway, but yeah, if you reply to one of my posts, I try to reply right back to you, and it allows for interaction that's not otherwise available when the camera's not on. Now, for years, X was the only other way for you to contact me in between the live streams. However, as of about 6 weeks ago, you can now also follow me on LinkedIn. So just go to linkedin.com/in and then /Cameron May CS. And I do post here as well. I make longer posts here because I don't have the character limit. You can follow me if you reply to me, or if you reply to one of my posts here. I'll reply right back to you. I was just on LinkedIn replying to all the posts today. And as an example of some of the things that I might post, here's a quick reminder of the 2026 Market Outlook event that we just wrapped up. You didn't miss it. Well, you missed it, but you can catch the archive right there. You can also see I ask questions about ongoing market events, introduce new concepts through videos, all kinds of things that you can learn on social media. All right, everybody, thanks for giving me your time today. Thanks, Connie, for helping out in chat. Now is your opportunity. Click on that survey link if you haven't done it already. But yeah, if you read through that, if you read the survey, you'll notice only 2 multiple choice questions, a comments box and a suggestion box. And if you fill it out, I'll take the time to read through the data that you provided. I read through your comments, and it definitely helps. All right. Thanks for all the thumbs up, everybody. Got 89 people watching the live stream right now. And it looks like, as I refresh my screen, 36 have already clicked the like button. Thanks for doing that, because that is a fantastic, nice little pat on the back for your presenter. It also gives our webcast a boost in the YouTube algorithm, helps more people find these things. All right, I will see you in a future webcast. I'll also look for you on social media, on X and on LinkedIn. But whenever I see you again, until that moment arrives, I want to wish you the very best of luck. Happy trading. Bye-bye.